Raphy,
Awesome.
so first and foremost, welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited to have you on today to chat and kind of go through how we met, how we've kind of gotten to working together and stuff, and how we're helping each other with these projects. So I'm looking forward to it. But just kind of to give context for you and your story, take us through your journey to where we are now, but starting from post-secondary school, like high school, like that era,
Okay.
to where we are now.
Okay. So I was living in New Liskeard, small town. Didn't grow up there. Was living there. Graduated and was immediately like, next step, right? Like college. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
So I went off to Cambrian in Sudbury, and I did my 3 years as a graphic designer in Sudbury. It was really, really good experience.
Yeah.
Still have like friends that I know since then. Like I'm going out for dinner with one of them Friday.
Nice.
So that went really well. I was very fortunate. I was extremely fortunate. A lot of people that I was going to school with, it was like their second program, or they were dropping out, or they were changing programs.
Yeah.
I was like one of the few that like stuck throughout the whole thing, because I was just lucky that the first program that I went in was something that worked for me, and the school worked for me.
Right.
So I did that, did my 3 years, graduated, and this was a really weird story. Graduated, and I was like, I'm gonna take a week off. I need like to sleep.
Just a week.
Just a week. Literally just like Monday to Sunday. And on Sunday, my sister, I have an older sister, she messages me. She was like, hey, like I was on like this Facebook page, and there's this girl that posted that she's used to be a nanny, and now she's leaving. She's going to grad school, and they're looking for another nanny. And you had said something once that you were like thinking about it. I was like, okay. Like I have no job. I'm done school.
Yeah.
I'm living at my parents'. Like I have nothing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay.
Might as well, yeah.
Might as well. So I remember it vividly.
Yeah.
It's like 3 p.m. on a Sunday, my last day off, and I'm sending an email to France. I'm sending an email to this French couple in France.
In France.
Yes. And in August, I jumped on a plane. And so I did a year in France as a nanny. I was a nanny for 2 boys, Jules and Charles. And I'm half Swiss. I have family in Switzerland.
Oh,
and my sister was living in England, so it worked out really, really well.
Right there.
So I did that.
Yeah.
And then I came back, and it was like, okay, school's done. Did like my little gap year travel. Okay, career time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, like what do I do? Like what's in New Liskeard? There's nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
So I ended up answering a wanted post on a newspaper, and it was a project manager for ACFO Témiscamingue.
Okay.
ACFO is a non-profit French association. So it's all about giving resources to like francophones and helping francophones in Ontario.
You're French originally, right?
I'm
Yes.
French,
Okay.
yeah. So, and the project was working with teenagers. So I always say that like I mostly work with 14-year-old girls. That was my big job. So I got the job there. The interview was really fun because they were like, we need someone like young. And I was like, hi.
That's me.
And then they said like,
Nice.
and like our marketing is really like not up to par. And I was like, I have a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And I had like this look
It's funny.
with my director where it was like, we could help each other.
Oh.
So I got hired there, worked
That's
there
cool.
for 2 years, did a lot, and then eventually just kind of like hit the ceiling. There was a point where it was just like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The board was really unhelpful, which is a big issue, and I was getting really frustrated. And by then I had a partner in Sudbury, and I was like, that's it! I'm quitting! I can't take this anymore! I'm coming to Sudbury! And then was on Indeed, found a job with Future North, and the job description was basically copy-paste of what I was already doing.
Amazing.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just like apply for this.
Like, sweet.
And then I've been working for Future North since April of 2022 as the community engagement coordinator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How long has Future North been going on for? A few years now?
2019.
Okay, yeah.
2019.
Oh,
So it was
4
kind of
years
so it was a weird start because they started right
Yeah.
before COVID. So imagine like you start this organization, you're all pumped,
Relying on being in the community.
we're gonna change the world, and then it's like, never mind.
Psych.
You can't go anywhere. You can't go in the high schools. You can't go in the post-secondary schools. You can't do anything. So then when COVID relaxed, then it was like, okay, we gotta like start building it back up. So the momentum was really strange.
Yeah, I can imagine. I want to back up. I want to talk about France.
I knew it.
Yeah,
France
course.
is a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a unique
it's
one.
the
It's
big
at the
one.
beginning of the timeline. Yeah,
It's the big
cool.
one.
So what was that experience like in the beginning? Like, what were your nerves like when you
Okay.
moved? Like, take me through the moving process.
So my sister kind of walked me through it because she was
Yeah.
living in England.
Oh, okay.
And she
Yeah.
was like, you are going to be very, very excited.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, moving to a whole new country, right? You're like, you're going to pack your bags, you're going to get on the plane, everything's going to be good. And then after about a week, the excitement is going to die down because
Yeah.
you're getting used to it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to panic
Oh, no.
because you're going to go, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I here? What is this place?
Yeah.
And nothing is familiar. And she was right. She was right.
Like, to the T, like a weekend.
There was...
Amazing.
So there was one day, it was my first day, like, officially working.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving the kids back from swimming lessons.
Yeah.
And the roads in France are very, very small. It's a
Yeah.
lot of one-ways, a lot of alleys.
Yeah.
And and the way that it works is that, which is really not a thing in Canada, is all the buildings go up to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So you don't have, like, your house, a big patch of
Driveway,
land,
yeah.
and then the driveway, and then the sidewalk, and then the road.
That's true. Yeah. Good
house,
point. I never noticed that.
Sidewalk, your road.
Yeah.
So what everybody does is that they back up into their driveways, because if you pull out, backing up, you can't see anything
Oh, yeah.
because of the way that it's built.
Yeah.
So I was... so you have to, like, pull up on the sidewalk, unlock the gate, let the kids in, lock, and then, like, go back out and park the car. And it was not my car, first time doing this. And I hit the mirror on the side. And I,
What?
like, freaked out. Because I had never, like, done anything to a car before.
Yeah.
And it was just that, like, what am I doing
What do I
here?
do? Yeah.
Where am I? And I called my parents. And my mom is Swiss, so she was very good. She was really like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, what did the family say? I was like, oh, like, they don't care. Like, they're being really nice
Yeah.
about it. But, like, I'm freaking out. I talked to my sister.
Yeah. Nice.
And then after a few days, it started to relax.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, wait, this is not that bad. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
But the big thing, when I came back, my grandpa was like, what's one thing that, like, you learned?
Sure.
And I was like, if I want kids or not.
Yeah.
There's nothing like being a nanny to know if you want kids or not. After 4 months, you're like, nah, man, they're crazy. I don't know how people do this.
It's funny you say that. My girlfriend texted me earlier this afternoon and was like, because she's working at a preschool right now, and she texted me. She's like, we're adopting. I'm not doing toddlers. And I was like, she's like, we're skipping it. And I was like, works for me.
It's a lot.
Cool.
So yeah, after 4 months, you're definitely like, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah.
But then after 8 months, you're like, wait, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
Because then what's happening is that you know the kids and you can read them.
Yeah.
So when your 6-year-old is losing his mind, you're not going, oh, he's being annoying, he's being a brat. You go, he's tired, he's hungry.
Right, you
I'll
kinda
give him food
understand
and
him.
he'll be fine. So there was one night where that happened. He was picking a fight with his brother, and he's a very emotional kid. He was throwing fits. And I was just like, he's hungry, he's hungry, he's hungry. So I was like, just push through, let him, like, do his thing, have dinner, and then he'll calm down. And he always sat beside me, but at the end of the meal, he was laying on my lap and he fell asleep.
Just tucker it out, eh?
Tuckered out. And it was
Go.
like...
You knew.
And, then,
Persistence.
and that's when it was
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
okay, this is nice.
Yes.
Like, this child, like, trusts me,
Yeah,
right? This
that's
child
cool.
is falling asleep on me.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're bonded and everything.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, okay, I think I can have kids now.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Was that what was their process like for you to like? What was their background check process like, or vetting process, I should say?
So I kind of had...
Sorry, you found this out on a Facebook group? You said your sister sent
So
you? Yeah.
that was not the usual way that people find a nanny
No, I was
ship.
gonna say.
I
I have a friend
kind of-
who's done almost exactly this.
Yeah.
So
So if you want to be a nanny, go on Au Pair World, and
Yeah.
basically you make an account as a nanny, and a family makes an account as a family, and you basically match together.
oh, cool.
So you can go, I want to go to France, and you'll do a filter. I want to do a 6-month contract, and I'll do a filter.
Yeah.
And then all these families will show up, and you'll kind of like communicate through that. That's how my friends did it. I did not have that. For me, it was a Facebook thing that the previous nanny had put up. I emailed them, told them about like my experience, who I was, and everything. And then we did an interview where I asked them all my questions. And then we were getting really excited because they were like, oh, like we found a nanny. And I'm like, I'm going to France.
Yeah.
But then the family did really good. They were like, let's give it a week. They were like, we're really excited. Let's give it a week. We can all think about it and then we'll come back.
Amazing.
And during that time, I had messaged the previous nannies and asked about their experience.
Smart.
Which is
That's
key.
very, very
Key.
smart job, Raphy.
So ask about the experiences and don't be the first. Never be the first. Because if you're the first nanny...
Oh, first nanny. I was like, what do you mean? Okay,
the first nanny, because that's the first time the family's figuring out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I was the fourth.
Oh.
So by then they were like,
they have a
fine.
system, yeah.
Yeah. So I asked
That's
the
cool.
nannies, and they gave me like really good feedback. They gave me like some advice. They were like, make friends with other nannies because nobody will understand what you're going through. Nobody understands what it's like to live in someone's house and raise their kids. While
that's a good
also
point.
being part of the family.
Yeah.
While also being like an authority figure, but you're not the parent.
You're like an aunt.
You're like an aunt. And
Yeah.
all your friends back home are super excited for you.
Yeah.
And they think you're living the dream, but it's like, yeah, sometimes the kids are sick and they're brats.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're crazy. So it was really good to kind of get like an honest look at things. And I did make friends with nannies and it was a really good idea. So after that, I kind of like had it checked. I was like, my dad pulled it up on Google Maps, the town. So it is called Fontainebleau. So Fontainebleau is about a 45-minute train ride south of Paris.
Okay. Nice.
And it's known because there's a castle of Francois the First that then Napoleon lived in.
Oh, cool.
And that castle was where Napoleon hid his mistresses. So it's a bit of a love shack.
Whoa.
And then it has a huge
Cool.
forest because that's
Yeah.
where the king wanted to hunt.
Makes sense, yeah.
So you were like in
That's cool.
Paris. There's no parks. There's no nothing. You drive 45 minutes and you're like, oh, we're in the middle of nowhere. Oh, there's a forest. Oh, this
Yeah.
is so nice.
Now there's a
Oh, and there's a
castle.
castle
Yeah.
and this is so nice. So looked that up and was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a really, really nice place.
That's cool.
Checked out the family. You know, you look at their Facebook.
Yeah,
kinda, like,
you
try
do
to
your,
figure it
do
out.
your
You do
thing.
your research.
Yeah,
do
your
your
due
research.
diligence for sure.
And then after a week, it was like, okay, we're good. We signed a contract. Right? Always sign a contract. Always. It protects not just the family, but yourself. So if things change, you say, I signed a contract. Read over the contract. So didn't have to clean. Some nannies are also kind of work as maids.
Yeah.
Kind of depends. They already had a maid.
Mm.
Because that way, like, they didn't have to
Sick.
change every year maids. They kind of just, like, had a standard. And then the nannies would change.
Oh, okay, that's easier.
And they also paid for a train pass. So traveling within, it's called l'Île-de-France, which is basically like the province of Paris. Bus, metro, train, taken care of.
Come on.
So that was really nice. So they paid for like a year pass.
Yeah.
So that was really nice
That's
because
cool.
they were like, we want you to experience it and not have to worry, essentially, about like paying your way. Oh, and that's
Smart.
another thing. I got paid 90 euros a week, which is about $110.
Yeah.
Because you're living with them, you're eating their food.
Yeah, your room and board is covered.
Your room and board is covered.
Sick.
So, and then what you do is that you save up all that money,
Yeah.
and every 6 weeks you get a week off. So
That's what it is, but it's 7 days on. Oh,
It's
24/7.
5 days on. Oh yeah, so
okay.
I did
Yeah.
Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
An hour in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, breakfast. You would walk them to school because it was like 3 blocks away.
Amazing.
And it was really just walking the 6-year-old, 8-year-old's fine.
Yeah, he's doing his thing.
You have the day off, and then at 4 o'clock you go pick up the kids. You come home. They might have like guitar lessons or Sunday school, which isn't on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then you do homework,
Yeah.
and then you make dinner, and then usually the parents are back at around 7:30. And then usually like once they come in and they're settled, you're like off duty, and you can go
Amazing.
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There are odd days where they'll ask you to like help out on a Saturday
Sure.
or an evening, like if the parents have like a work dinner
Yeah.
or if they're out of town or anything, then you'll work that and you'll get paid extra.
Whoa.
And then if the kids are sick,
Yeah.
the kids
That
are
makes
sick,
sense.
you're
home.
taking care
yeah,
of the kids.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, not too
What
bad.
would you do during the days? Like, what is there? Like, just explore the village?
So yeah, you explore the
Trip to
village.
France.
You explore the
Paris.
village, which is really fun. Fontainebleau was really nice because basically the way that it works is that if you came out of the house onto the sidewalk, if you turned left, you had the elementary school and the forest, so you could go on a hike super easily. Sure. And if you turned right and you just walk straight, you hit like, it's really weird for Canadians. It's just like this big open plaza that's just stone. Yeah. And it's like,
oh, amazing.
What is this?
Yeah.
Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, there's a market.
What?
There's a market. And my parents came to visit me, and I was like, oh, we gotta go to the market. And they were like, okay, like, let's go to the butcher's. And I was like, no, there's not a butcher's. There's the chicken guy, the beef guy, the pork guy, and the fish guy. Because everybody is like a specialist, essentially.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you have the guy with all the olives, and the guy with all the cheese. Yeah. And there's a woman selling antiques, and there's this, and there's that. So that was really nice. And then if you kept walking in that direction, you hit the castle.
Nice, yeah.
And then I had a friend, my friend Kate and I, she's from South Africa. Her and I, we would pick a village like every week. And we would just, one of us would drive, and we'd go explore the village. And we'd go for lunch, we'd go check it out. And we fell in love with one place. It was maybe a 10-minute drive. It was a very, very small village. And it had a river, and then you could sit by the river, and we did picnics all the time.
What?
And then you bring the kids after school, you play soccer with them.
Right there, right?
You bring them in the summer, they can swim.
What? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I found, so when I was in Italy, and my dad told me about some interesting things, but one thing I noticed when I was in Italy was there's very, very weird things that happen, or things that, like you're saying, like it's odd to understand in Canada if you've never been. Yeah. But I remember my dad was saying, he's like, yo, like they stop everything they're doing at lunchtime.
Yes.
And I was like, okay. So, but I'm sitting there on my balcony, right, drinking espresso, waiting for lunch because I'm at my family's place. How they have their like 3-story, like, you know, the great grandmother, the kids, and then whatever, right? So, whole family ancestry tree is in that house, and I'm standing on the balcony, like just sipping my espresso, looking out at like just the neighborhood, right, the block. There's one guy just mowing his lawn, okay, and I kid you not, he was like 80% of the way complete the lawn, and there was the church bell that went off at noon. Yep. He let go of his lawnmower, turned around, and walked into the house. He's like, I'm done. It's lunchtime.
It's really
weird.
He
had 2 more passes, Raphy.
It's really weird. And, like, you'll see stuff where it's, like, not just, like, restaurants. It's, like, the bookstores will close for 2 hours.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It's
everything
wild.
Just shuts down.
Yeah.
And, again, for us, super weird.
Very, yeah.
That is, like, unheard of. Yeah. But for them, it's like, that's what we do. And then they go home, and they have lunch, and they take a nap.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything weird though, like or very specifically unique? It could be there, or it could be when you were in England, or it could have been
I was
like
all over the place.
Like that.
One thing that's very interesting is the aesthetics of places. Every country is a little bit different.
Yeah.
France is very old. It's very proper.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't wear sweatpants to leave the house.
I love it. Implement it now.
You do not do that. You would not be caught, like somebody would not be caught dead wearing sweatpants outside the house. So imagine like people that go to Walmart here in pajamas.
Yeah, in PJs.
You like, it's frowned upon.
It's a big,
frowned upon.
Yeah, it's a big red flag for me.
So teenagers that go to school, because we lived by the high school, it's mom jeans and hoodies. That's their relaxed look. But it's still fashionable. They still dress it nicely.
That's my current look.
Oh, but the thing that was weird is that... So Canadians were always like early to things, or at least we try to be. So the first time I brought the kids to swimming, I was like, I don't know, 10 minutes early. I didn't know where I was going, so I left nice and early.
Perfect.
And I kept getting weird looks. I was like, why am I getting weird looks? I'm here early. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
So when I went home, I asked the mom, and she was like, oh, you can't be early.
Can't be.
And I was like, why? And she was like,
what?
If you're early, that means you have nothing better to do. If you're late, then you're just a rude, bad person. Everybody is exactly on time.
What?
Yep. You're not a minute late, you're not a minute early, you're exactly on time.
Oh, there is a thing, like being on time.
It's a thing. And because if you're late, you're seen as like, you don't care about the person's time.
Well,
it's like
that makes sense though,
super frowned upon. But if you're early, it's like, don't you have better things to do than to sit here and wait? Like, what are you doing here? Wow. Yeah, so then I had to like adjust my thinking of like, I don't need to be 10 minutes early.
Do you just wait till the last second to like walk in the door? Or how'd you do that?
So like almost. What? Of course, when you have kids, it's really different because it's like you have your clock, but those kids do not have your clock.
Yeah, they don't have any clock.
The
They're
in
just
one
whatever
other
they
direction.
want. Yeah.
So sometimes it feels like a little bit like herding cattle, and you're like, can we just get in this direction?
Yeah.
I got mad at my parents for that one, so they came to visit me. And mornings, I'm not a morning person. Mm-hmm. Mornings can be brutal with kids because they are half asleep.
Yeah.
And with the school, you walk them to school, and the gates are open for like 10 minutes. Because they're always on time. Can't be late, can't be early. So you have 10 minutes span to bring them. And I know like how long the walk is. And my parents kept talking to the kids, and I was like, don't talk to them. Like, they need to eat their breakfast. And they're like, oh, like, why not? And I'm like, because we're on a clock. If you talk to them, they're not going to eat. And then it's going to be 20 minutes is going to go by.
Yeah, and I need, like, it's on you if they don't get to school.
Yeah.
And those gates close.
And then they eat, and then they have to go brush their teeth.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get distracted. They're going to see a toy. They're going to see something. It's going to be a whole thing. And then they need to come back and put on their shoes. And my parents are still talking to them. So they, like, are holding their shoes, and they just stop. And they put their shoes down, and we'll just like walk up to you and start talking to you, and you're like, "No, go!"
Yeah, we need the consistent. Back. Oh man!
So my parents thought I was just super grumpy, and I was like, "No, like this is how we have to do things. I know this.
Yeah,
they're crazy kids. You have to keep them organized."
Ah, that's funny.
Yeah. So the punctuation was really weird. Punctuality.
Weird. Hey?
That was weird. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
That was really weird.
Where do you? We'll kind of jump forward a bit. What opportunities did you notice, and what opportunities are there now? I'll shoot a double barrel question at you. What opportunities are there available now for graphic design students? Like, what's kind of? It doesn't sound like it was that long ago you graduated, so I imagine they're still similar. But what opportunities are there out there for?
So when you become a graphic designer, there's basically 2 routes that you can go to.
Okay.
You can go 3, I guess. You can go freelance. You just work on your own. So a lot of people will start like their own foundation, their own like marketing place. You go work for a studio. So we do have some studios in Sudbury. We have Design to Plume, which is really, really good. It's Indigenous women owned.
Oh, cool.
Shout out Design to Plume. There's Studio 123. Like we have quite a few, and many are run by Cambrian alumni.
Right. Cool.
So you can go work for the studios, and when you work for studios, you're basically, you get a contract, you work on the contract, you move on. Or you go work what we call like in-house. Mm-hmm. So let's say like CTV. CTV is not hiring a studio. They just have a department. They just have a department at CTV that does marketing and does everything.
Interesting.
So that's the other way that you can go. I went in a non-traditional route because technically I'm not doing graphic design in the traditional sense.
Right.
I'm not doing brand campaigns and everything. Yeah. But in nonprofit, you still need it because you're doing a lot of proposals, you're doing consultations, you're doing social media, you're doing a website. So even though it's not necessarily seen as it, it still is. So when I came on and my boss was like, oh, like can you make this pretty? And I'm like, yeah.
Of course I can.
And she was like, you know, like, how long would it take you? I was like, I don't know, 2 hours? She's like, that's it? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wait, this is so easy. Yeah, this is so easy. So then I basically took over.
Nice.
So, like, I've had friends that work for different agencies. I had a friend that worked for Sudbury Theatre Center, the hospital. Like, it really just depends on, like, what you're kind of interested in.
Yeah.
Working, they all have their pros and cons. Freelance is, of course, like, there's not a lot of stability. You have to be like an entrepreneur. You have to really push, but you make your own hours.
Yeah.
You make your own hours. You make your own salary. You do as you please. Working for a studio is very creative. There's a lot of creative energy. You're collaborating a lot. It's really fun. But it's really like, here's a project. You're going to work on this and nothing else for 6 months, and then you're going to move on. And you're kind of like, but I just I don't want to give it up.
But I don't want to. Yeah.
And then in-house is more corporate, because then you have HR and you have legal and you have this and you have that and you have like this whole system and you're working on so many different things, but it's all within like the same project. Nice. You're working for CTV, you're working for journalists, and that's it. So you're always working on CTV and focusing on that. So that's really fun too. Everybody kind of picks their own route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Take me through the beginning stages of getting hired. there?
Okay, like with Future North specifically?
Yeah, and then what is Future North
Okay.
actually? That might be a better question.
So I kind of came in differently than a lot of people do. So the person who was working as the community engagement coordinator was going on mat leave.
Yeah.
So they were looking for somebody to cover for her, and it was going to be a year to a year and 6 months, because in Canada you can do either a year mat leave or like 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a kind of like, we'll see how long, but you're definitely locked in for a year. That's for sure.
Cool.
So I did Indeed. I love Indeed. Indeed's great. And one of the things that was required is that you had to speak French.
Mm-hmm.
Because Future North, we do everything bilingual.
Oh,
so
cool.
you kind of have to have like a minimum of like so many staff that can communicate in French.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. And then of course going to France helped, because it just
I can imagine.
proved that I was fluent.
Yeah.
I worked at a French association, so I was doing everything in
Yeah.
French. So I got an email, did the interview, and at the time my boyfriend was staying with me, and I was working a lot from home because it's during COVID and everything. So my cat really loved sitting on my lap and rubbing herself against the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, she cannot do that during an interview.
No.
So I had like locked the cat and the boyfriend like in a room and
Yeah.
was like, don't come out until I
Yeah.
say you can. Did the interview. My favorite part is always when they're like, okay, we're going to ask you a question in French to see like how your French is. And they ask the question, and then I answer in big long paragraphs
Yeah.
completely in French. And they go, oh! And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, so like you're good reading and writing in French. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I
and they're
guess.
like, okay, done.
Sick.
And then a lot of what I was working on was really what they were working on. Like very similar things, working with youth, running events, nonprofit, grants and everything. And then I don't remember if they asked me if I just told them, but I remember telling them I love my job. I just don't have support anymore to go
Yeah.
farther than I currently am. So it's like I've accomplished this much
Yeah.
with not a lot of encouragement. It came a lot like from myself, and
Yeah.
it was like I want to keep building higher and higher and higher and bigger projects. But doing it solo
Tough.
with no budget and no support is
Yeah.
really difficult. So I was
Yeah.
like, I am just ready to like start something new and keep pushing and keep being like innovative and everything.
Nice,
I
yeah.
just need that space.
Right.
And that's where they were like, that's it. And then I got asked, because they always ask you, you know, what's your biggest flaw?
Yeah.
Mine is I always get too excited.
Okay.
I'm always like, let's do like 12 different posters
Yeah.
for something that's so simple.
Yeah.
I always give myself too much work, and then about a third way I go, why am I doing this to myself? Let's cut this
Yeah.
back. And
Ah.
my boss at the time, Nicole, and the girl that was going on mat leave, Kiana, they both laughed, and they were like, that's exactly our problem. So it was like, okay, we're all on the same boat here. We all like want
Yeah.
the same thing
Yeah.
and have the same challenges. And this will fit, essentially.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. So then after that, this is kind of fun. So I was still living in New Liskeard, but
Yeah.
working in Sudbury.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a place in Sudbury, and we found a place, like my partner and I, and we were living with another couple. But it was in June, and I was supposed to move in May, because I had given notice. So I was living in my friend's house for a month in Jemmy, just like
Making
sleeping
it
on an
work.
ear mattress,
Yeah.
working at the dining table, doing what
Yeah.
I can. But it
That's
was
awesome.
like, don't worry, I'll be
Yeah.
there. I'll
Like,
figure it
we'll
out.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Ah,
beginning
that's
was a
cool.
little bit weird because of that, but once I moved and settled in, it was like, okay, let's go. Let's hit the ground running.
Nice. So for people who don't know, take us through kind of very quick summary of what Future North is.
Okay,
Yeah, mission statement, if you will.
exactly. Okay, so Future North is a nonprofit charity that works with youth between the ages of 15 and 30 years old in the districts of Manitoulin and Sudbury. We aim to improve and create resources for youth directed by youth.
Amazing. Yeah.
So everything that we do is youth-led.
Right. Like
so-
in that. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Everything is youth-led. So the way to see it is we have like a council called our youth expert panel, and we show up and we go, we have some budget left over from this grant. What do you guys want to do with it?
Oh, cool.
And they go, we can do this and do this and do this and do this. And then we usually discuss it, and then we have a vote. And let's say plan C was the one that they picked.
Nice.
We will go back and the staff will do what I like to call the boring stuff. That's making the phone calls and being like, what venues can we get? What fits within the budget?
Yeah.
And then we come back and we say, these are 3 venues that they're available on these days.
Yeah.
This is the budget. This is their look. And then the youth will continue. And they'll be like, okay, we really like this one.
Oh,
And then we go from there. So that's something that's very unique. And it's a very simple idea of, if you're doing something for youth, shouldn't youth be a part of it?
Yeah.
Because instead of an adult telling you what you want,
Yeah.
they're just doing what you want.
Right.
So, and when you throw that concept and you start to get used to it, you start seeing that, like, high school.
Yeah.
Why don't they give students the choices of, like, pick between one of these 5 plays? Instead of, we're doing this play. We're doing Aladdin. Everybody, we're doing like Aladdin. That's it. And instead, you bring the youth-led concept of, let's look at the budget. What scripts can we get the copyright and are appropriate and everything, and then we'll let you vote. And now it's the youth decision. And then now they're going to be so much more passionate about that project because it's their idea.
Yeah, they're not just doing it because they have to.
They're not just doing it because they have to. So they get a lot more passionate because of it. And it's a lot more
cool.
like, this is my project. I'm not being forced to do this project. This is mine. I picked it. And it changes everything.
Wow, yeah. No kidding. I can see that. Like, I've had that experience happen with people that I've either done like small business projects with, or even like podcast stuff. And it's if they don't have the same passion for it, or if it's their project, or I feel it's like more 70-30 mine or theirs, it's like you can see where certain things just nobody cares about it sometimes, or like sometimes they just whatever. It's easier to put it off if it's not yours.
That's something that I talk a lot about when we do consultations. We've done a few now, or sometimes we'll just do like a runoff presentation to somebody. And I always say, first of all, everybody should be getting feedback. You should all be doing feedback. But there's 2 things. You need to create a welcoming space for negative comments. Nobody wants to tell you that you're wrong.
Right.
It's very awkward, especially if you're doing like a focus group with strangers.
Tough, yeah.
It's really tough. So you need to create an open space. And that can be simply be put of like, what would you leave and what would you keep? What would you change? What do you want to see done differently? And then they can start to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But then the person doing the project needs to actually listen, because what happens is that when you're doing a business, it becomes like your baby. It's your little brainchild,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And you go, I don't want anyone to touch this. But now people are telling you that you're wrong. So you have to be able to take that step back and be like, their feedback is valuable. I'm not always right.
Right.
And that's something that, like, you'll see is that people will do feedbacks and they'll get negative comments and they go, well, they didn't understand it. Well, I don't think that they're right. Well, I'm still going to do it this way. And you're like, what was the point then?
Yeah, why'd you, like, where's the wall come from?
If you just did it for validation and it was a good idea, that's not feedback then. That's just praise.
Why even have the circle?
Why even bother?
Yeah.
Why even bother? So you have to be very, like, neutral, you have to be very open, and you have to be willing to make the changes.
Yeah, you got to have the right amount of humility coming into that.
Yes.
Like, there has to be some form of, okay, I'm going in to try to improve, but I think people who dive into business with a certain ego, I find they lack the ability to grow.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very tough. And I found, like, I heard a really cool quote from this guy a while ago when I was, like, prepping for speeches and stuff. He was like, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. And I was like, oh, I like it. Okay.
And you want to know what will beat that out of you? Graphic design. Because you will do 3 presentations every week for 3 years, showing your work, and have not just your teacher critique it, but all your classmates critique it. So first of all, you become completely immune to presentations because you're doing it consistently, constantly, to small classes, big classes, profs, anyone. So you're just like, oh, this is normal now. Yeah. And then you're getting so many different critiques, some that are contradicting each other, because some people will say, oh, I really like this, and some people say, no, I actually really didn't like that. And then you have your teacher telling you one thing, and now you're like, okay, so, like, how can I take all that feedback and put it towards my project? Right. And it's not your brainchild, it's a grade at the end of the day, so you have to kind of, like, disconnect a little bit
Yes.
and be like, I'm not always right.
Mm-hmm.
These people are very experienced. They have great ideas. I value their opinion. Let me actually listen and implement this instead of just thinking that you're the best.
So,
because that's not true.
No, you're right. It's not
It's
true.
not true.
It's not true. It's tough. But there's I have an interesting point to make with this story too.
Mm-hmm.
But I did architectural technology, and it was the same idea. So it was like, hey, we're going to design these buildings, do all the construction documents for it, and have everything, and just everything's critiqued and I'm sure you had this similar where for the final presentation or one of like the final year, we had not just our teachers, not just other teachers in the program who weren't running the projects class, other students from like there was group A and group B, and like other students from group A or group B would show up, and industry professionals.
Oh, that's the worst.
Who are like, hey, we're doing this to
so
like they're, and you know they're coming to like pick. They're like, ooh, who do we want to hire or possibly like, you know? And so that was tough. But I want to know something. Do you think doing that to an extent is it can be problematic? I think like always receiving or always giving feedback. It's tough because I found let's check this out. I was when I was hosting 5 Cent City, or one of the MCs I should say, I would finish my like introduction of the person or finish what I had to say to kind of like transition to the next thing that was going on. I would introduce the speaker, come off, and somebody would come up to me and I'd be like, I know I need to do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like beating them to criticize, right? And they'd be like, no, I was just going to come say, you're doing a great job, dude. You're only getting better. And I'm like, where's the but there wasn't one. So I was like, I was beating them to criticize what I was doing.
You're so used to it.
Exactly. So I almost wonder, where's the line of like, is it problematic?
So the one thing that I did find got problematic is that graphic design at Cameron, we were a small class. It's usually you start off with like, like 35 students, let's say, and then people kind of like drop off as the years go on. But if you have a classmate that is judging your work, and let's say every presentation they're saying something negative, your relationship with that person is starting to get affected. So that was something that you had to kind of be careful of.
That's a good way to put it.
They're not judging me. They're judging the work. I can fix the work. And it's again that like taking a step back.
Whoa.
And different people react to it differently. Some people, you could see them like getting frustrated and being like, oh, like I'm not changing that. Like they don't know. And some people being very, very open to it. And next presentation, when they show the next step, you can tell if they listened or not. And then there is this weird thing. I saw this in my last semester. People get a little bit, they like the power sometimes.
Yeah.
They like being in charge. And then they are just kind of like telling people what to do instead of collaborating. And that becomes really toxic really quickly.
Okay.
So for me, I was pretty good with it. I was definitely the one that always said like, oh, I really like this. Or like, I think this. Or what about this? It was me and Miranda. We always had a lot to say. But one thing that was really good is that in college you're not allowed to say I like, because that's an opinion. If somebody presents something to you, and let's say like they use the color blue, and you say, but I like green. Where are you gonna go with that? And then you're like, what? Now I have to change my whole thing to green because that's your favorite color?
To fit your...
So instead, you say,
I like that.
I think this would work better with a more vibrant color because it suits your tone better.
I feel that's more constructive than it is.
Constructive, and it's a fact instead of your opinion.
Yeah, like a feeling towards it.
And then that helps a lot.
That's how you just make the distinction.
So learning how to make that distinction is extremely helpful, and your teachers do it. And your teachers will try to trick you and say, like, why'd you make it green? And then you have to come up with an answer on the spot. And then they'll keep challenging you. And you're like, oh, because I'm doing a thing on forestry, so it's green. It's like, well, why not orange? Because, like, in the fall, like, the leaves are orange. So they're trying to push you so that you kind of get used to it and you're able to answer. Yeah. But it's always about just being able to stick with the facts and the opinion. Because once you go in the opinion, like, you're done, and that fight is never going to end.
Never.
It's never going to end.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah, jeez. I like that, Raphy. That's a really good way to, like, separate the two and really clear cut. And then, I find this way, too, with what you're saying, with those examples, is you leave the emotion side out of it, and then it's just, we're purely doing this to get the best, like soak up the best possible like product we can get, right? Just really separate the bad from the good. But with that being said, I want to know, how do you guys at Future North specifically decide what to get behind, what events to do? How do you pick and choose what's worth putting time, effort, and money into?
Yeah, so first it has to fit with our values. That's of course. So everything that we do is youth led and about like encouraging youth leadership. So like I found this restaurant that was that were hiring. I saw them on Instagram, and I share a lot of like job postings and stuff with our students, right? And they had put looking for responsible teen that will show up on time. And he was immediately just like, dude, like, no, like, you're already coming in with such a strong bias. So, like, that's somebody that we would be immediately like, we can't work with them until they change their attitude. Because that's not what we stand for.
Right.
We respect youth. We treat them like we would want to be treated.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. And then the second one is how much interest is in the youth. So one of our big projects is Culture of the North, which is about like fighting racism inside the high schools. That project was started by 2 co-op students about almost 2 years ago now. So they started it and they did a whole research project. They interviewed people, they talked to teachers, and it was about have you seen racism? Did you say something about it? Is it a problem? And they shared stories. And then you look at how many responses you're getting, and you go like, oh, a lot of people were into this. Let's keep going. Let's see how this keeps moving forward.
Interesting.
And then sometimes you're just like, hey, what do you guys want to do? And you'll kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So a lot of it comes from the interest, because everybody has their own things that like they're really passionate about. And we do have avenues where like you can work on that. We do that a lot with co-op students. We go, what are you into? We'll try to find something. We want to encourage you. But when it comes to like our own personal ideas, we get them vetted by youth. So Redefining Success was pitched to the youth and got approved by them before we like went too far.
What youth is like you have like an advisory board of youth? Like how does that...
So it's basically it. We call it the Youth Expert Panel. So it's our demographic 15 to 30 years old. Anybody from any background, that doesn't matter to us. And then we have a chair and a co-chair. But the 2 that we have now, we're actually like, can we just split the duties of chair? Because like we don't really like that one is more in charge than the other one. We'd rather just share it.
So they're like, doing the same thing anyway.
Sure.
Almost.
Yeah, not a problem. So they lead a lot of the meetings, and then every meeting they have to bring like share opportunities with the students, like hey, like Science North is doing this project and they're hiring, and like hey, there's like this online certificate that you can do for free and you can add it to your resume. So they do a lot of that. And then I'll come in and I'll present a project and I'll ask a lot of questions, and then we'll kind of have a discussion about it.
Of course.
Which will usually end in like, okay, is this something that you want to see us do? And they'll be like, yes, but we want it in more this side. Or, yes, let's focus more on this. We rarely have like a no. It's more like it's an adjustment. And that's where like we kind of start off. And then we do check-ins every month to be like, hey, this is an update on how the project is going. How are you guys feeling about it? We also have a group chat, which is fantastic, because I'll like text them, let's say like a poster, and be like, judge my poster.
Amazing.
Like, what do you want to change? And they're like, can we try like a different color? And I'm like, sure, let me like whip this up for you, drop it, and then we work through that. So there's meetings which are like serious, let's sit down and talk through this, and then there's like very casual discussion. Or like we'll do a poll about like what night do you guys want this event to be thrown, and I'll just throw a poll and they can just vote, and then they might still have a discussion about it. That makes things really easy, and it's that constant communication. And it's also like meeting them on their level. Like my staff, you know, if I say, hey Camilla, can we meet? She'll be like, okay, and that's it. But like these kids have their own lives. They have school and jobs and clubs, and some of them are in Toronto going to like really McMaster's. So like you can't do that, but a text is easy. Text is easy.
Nice, just keeping that open lines of communication.
And then it makes them feel like they can message us anytime, they can ask questions anytime, they can use the group chat. Like, I have a co-op student now, and I was like, use the group chat, pitch your ideas to that, and, like, start the conversation there.
Interesting. We've kind of touched on this in the past, just chatting. at different times. Where would you recommend students, because we've talked about how difficult it is to find bursaries, grants and stuff for students, whether it be high school students applying post-secondary or even just people in general like looking for grants that are in the avenue that they're trying to pursue. Where would you begin searching for them?
So, as nerve-wracking as it is, talk to your like school counselor. That's literally their job. That's all that they do is like work with students. Now, some schools you'll have like really good ones, some of them you won't, but that's always like a good first step, because they'll be like, oh, if you take like so many classes in science, you can get a science bursary. And you go, oh, okay, that sounds interesting.
That's cool, yeah.
And even in college, even if you're like in your first year university or anything, talk to the counselors. Talk to like the financial aides, because they'll be able to say like, hey, you're actually eligible for this grant. Because every year we get $1,000 to give to like a history student that has grades above 80, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, I'm going to go for that.
Yeah.
And then you can start to kind of look for it. Bigger grants are very difficult to find.
Yeah.
They're very challenging to get, because especially I find in the north we're always like, but I'm not good enough, but there's some kid in Toronto that's going to do so much better than me. Still apply. Because some grants have a quota of like they need to have like so many people in so many areas. So
interesting.
Sometimes you'll still get them even though you're competing with Toronto.
Oh, that's cool that they have quotas and stuff, and you almost...
Some of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Trillium is one, not so many for students, but for nonprofits, it's a really big one. They will give like so many in Ontario, in Northeast, and that.
Oh, cool.
And that's why like some of the grants will ask you like what region you're in, because they want to give grants to those areas. Do a lot go to Toronto, of course.
Yeah.
The population is huge.
Yeah, more people, yeah.
And grants want a return on investment, which is participation.
Yeah.
So if you have an event in Toronto that's getting 400 kids, compared to an event in Sudbury that's getting 40 kids, you're more likely to fund the Toronto one, but the population is very, very different.
Right, so the percentage of it could be higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's another thing that's like difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
Is that like your participation numbers might be different. The other thing with nonprofits is this really like vicious cycle. So let's say you have participation is low. So you want more money so you can make a bigger event. But your participation is low, so they don't want to give you more money. So now you're like stuck because you're like, I can't get participation up without upping the budget.
Right.
But I can't up the budget unless I prove that people are interested in it. So,
That's a tough...
Yeah, that was a
everything.
problem at my previous job that I have a lot, because it was a very small community. It's in Liskeard. There's one French school. Not a lot of students are even pursuing French outside of high school. It's very much like, I'm going to speak French at school and go home and do everything in English. So that's really difficult. So why would Trillium give you $20,000?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, to pay salaries so we can like give money to these students and everything, and they're like, yeah, but you have 6. You're like, yeah, but we're going to change their lives, and then we can reach like 24 potentially, and then they're like, yeah, but like 6.
There's 400 over here,
but like you only have 6.
Yeah,
that's challenging.
Jeez.
Those are the ones that you go for community grants. Go for community grants. A lot of cities do grants. Different foundations will do grants. There's like a Sudbury Foundation. Like, go after those ones, because if you're fighting for students in Sudbury and you go to a foundation in Sudbury, first of all, you're a lot more likely to get it. And they're going like, well, we want to help the kids in Sudbury, and they'll understand like where you're coming from. They'll understand like the challenges that you're facing.
Interesting. Do you have, speaking of the events that you put on, you've probably spoken at a handful. You're a very good communicator, just talking to you now and in the past. Do you have, what are some public speaking tips you'd give to somebody who, if it's their first time speaking in front of, let's call it like a group of 30, like classroom size?
Okay. So, once you get up there, a lot of your nerves will disappear, because it's like going to the gym. It's like so much of going to the gym is just showing up.
Yes.
So you give yourself a lot more anxiety. It's going to go by a lot faster than you think. You think you're talking for 2 minutes. It's been half an hour.
Yes.
You don't realize. Breathe. Nobody is like consciously thinking of like, oh, they paused for 3 extra seconds.
Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody knows.
If you need to like even just stop and take a drink of water, you don't need to worry about that. It was advice. It was something I heard. It was like, in your day-to-day, what was the last thing that you remember that you witnessed somebody do something embarrassing?
Yeah, no, we don't think
we don't think about
we don't
that.
Really care.
Do you remember like what your friend wore yesterday? No. We're way less conscious of other people than we believe that we are. So when you present, you prep as much as you can and everything, but we think we're being judged so much more than we actually are.
Right.
A lot of people are going to leave that presentation and like the next day they forgot about it. Unfortunately, that's not really what we want, but they're not thinking about like, oh, like they stuttered on a word. Whoops.
Yeah.
No, people don't notice that kind of stuff. So when it's your first time, there's a lot of nerves. You think that people are staring at you. You're very nervous. Once you get going and you kind of get through the first one, you start to like ease up and you realize like, oh, I didn't die on stage. I'm okay.
It's like, oh, I keep doing this.
I'm okay. This is fine. If it's really bad, look for a friend in the crowd and just talk to them. So I emceed with my student Sarah at Headstrong.
Yeah.
And I have done this a few times. So Sarah was really nervous. I was like, if you get too nervous, look for the boss at the back of the stage and just pretend like you're talking to her.
Amazing.
Just look at her. I was like, that's kind of like a good like clutch to have.
Yeah.
Oh, and bring notes. We had like our full scripts on stage with us. Bring notes. You don't have to memorize everything. My goodness. Oh, and don't read your screen. Like read the presentation.
Yeah, don't read it.
Don't read your presentation. Stay facing the stage.
Yeah.
Stay looking at them. Another thing I like to do is let's say like you watch like a TED Talk or something, and you go like, why did that captivate me? What were they doing that made me keep attention? Like our buddy Sam Dema, he like mastered that.
Yeah.
He like mastered keeping your attention focused and being engaging.
Yeah.
And then you leave that and you're like, how did he do that? And it's like, figure it out because then you can repeat it.
It is a skill.
It's a skill.
It is a skill for sure.
It's a skill, and it's something high schools don't really teach you for. It's kind of like do a presentation on.
Yeah, but they're more focused on presenting the topic than you are actually your ability to do that. Yeah.
And then you get into the real world, and then you're like, pitch like the new budget. And you're like, how?
Yeah, with what?
With what? Like, how do I do this? And then you're like, oh, like, you're going to go talk at this conference, and you're going to go, like, represent the company. And you're like, but I've never done this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
extra stressful.
it's a skill that we're not really taught in high school.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've seen a list of skills that should be taught in high school, and it's, like, one of the top 3 on there. Right? Other than, obviously, personal finance and, and other stuff, like, fun stuff like that. But, yeah, there's something to be said for that skill that's you can develop it, you can go through and connect, and just having, because I'm lucky enough to have a handful of friends that are like decent at it. Like Sam, I'm able to reach out to, my buddy Michael, and then another friend Matt, who like trained the speakers a couple times. Being able to talk to them and see how they've done it in the past and seeing their speeches, and then kind of going, oh, okay, like having them and talking to them and having them train me. Even just that training session that was done on the Saturday a few weeks ago, that was like the end all be all for what I felt I needed to know. I was like, okay, I'm good now. I can do this.
Yep,
we're good.
Exactly.
I'm good.
Exactly.
Because I was like, I need the structure. I needed the beginning and I need the end. I'm like, do we remember? Like, I just had very specific questions that he answered, and I was just like, we're good.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. And then I made those 2 points, and I was like, all right, I feel better.
Yeah.
I can go.
And then you feel good. And then it boosts your confidence and everything. Another thing that I like to do, and you can do this with anything, whether it's like a presentation or an event that like you hosted, but ask people like, what would you change? Because it doesn't. Yeah. It's not a negative question. It's like, what did I do wrong? That's negative. Right. Asking what you would change is always like an open conversation.
For feedback for the speaker, yeah.
And then they'll say like, oh, like you had really good like stage presence, but like you were reading your slides a lot and that was a little bit distracting. You're like, oh, okay, next time I know what to do.
Right.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
That's cool. Like very specific feedback
Yeah.
to like how they present today.
Yeah, because often people
cool.
are like, oh, you did great, you did great, you did great. You're like, sweet.
But
if you want to like make it as like a career, then it's like being told you did great is not going to help you grow. Because it's just like, oh, I'll just keep doing the same thing. Asking what would you change, that like keeps it going.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So working with the youth and in your time, you can even include traveling around Europe and stuff like that, and meeting people there. Do you have a crazy, like, impactful story or something that stood out from somebody you met along that way? It doesn't have to be specifically with the youth, but it could be somebody you worked with that told you about an experience.
There's a few students at ACFO that, like, because we were such a small group, that you really saw, like, the change in some people.
Yeah.
So one of them, he was really interesting. So the dad was the president of ACFO. So he would come into the office once a week and have lunch with us.
Nice.
He has 3 kids, and they're from Quebec. And his daughter was one of my students. So I'm like, oh, like, how are your kids doing? Like, how are the boys? So they had a son, the daughter, and the younger son. And he's like, oh, like, you know, over the weekend we played, like, D&D together. Like, him and the boys. The daughter's not interested. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And the oldest one, Antoine, he runs it. He's the DM. He's a 17-year-old kid.
Nice.
So when he moved from Quebec to Ontario, he's very, very French. And he struggles with autism. So making friends is really difficult for him. So he plays D&D with his dad.
Amazing.
And I was like, wouldn't this kid, like, that's great for your relationship with your dad. There's nothing wrong with that. But, like, you know, like, don't you want to play with kids, like, kind of like your own age? And I was like, we can figure this out. So I talked to him, and we formed a D&D club.
Nice. Yeah?
And you know that after I quit my job, they kept going.
Really?
They kept going.
Amazing.
And his social went like, whoosh.
Jeez.
Because he was having lunch with them. And these kids, they were all girls, which was really funny because he's like this big guy and he's super tall and there's like all these girls. And they're like, Antoine! And the first session, everybody had like their character sheet, a pencil, and put their phone away. So he was like, oh, they're taking this seriously. And they had so much fun. And you could see it that it's like, you know, when you share like your passion with somebody and they're just as excited as you are.
Oh, it's incredible.
Changes everything. Changes everything. And then they were hosting like game nights together. And his dad was like, it's like I have a new kid.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because he's socializing now. Yeah. And then when they were planning to go to university, they're all going to Ottawa U. So they're all going to be together. So even when he moves to Ottawa, he's still with all his friends. Yeah. He's with all his friends.
That's going to be huge for that transition too.
It's really, really big. It's really, really big. And just that change from like Saturday night playing D&D with like your dad and your little brother to every Friday night you're at your friend's place ordering food, playing D&D at their place, you know, they're inviting more people, so you're meeting more people, you're having lunch with them at school, and then they're just as excited as you, so they're showing you stuff. They're like, can I do this like in the next campaign? Can I have like this crazy animal? So that was a really nice success story. It was something that felt so simple that it was like, I'll do a D&D, but had like huge success in that student. So that one was really fun to see.
That's awesome. Whoa. Yeah, that's pretty fulfilling. Yeah. That sounds really cool. It's like, oh, I've done my job. Yeah.
And there were other times like, we did a summer party. Every summer I tried to like do like a nice like wrap up. So we did a summer party and I had an intern that was helping me out. Bless Daphne. And she kind of came up to me at one point. She was really good because when you're running an event, you're so focused. So she would come up to me like, hey, I think they're getting hungry. Should we start the food? I'm like, yes, great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So she comes up to me and she's like, hey, have you been hearing what this one student is saying? And I was like, no. She was like, she's just saying like a lot of like self-deprecating comments. And a lot of like jokes about herself and not really positive. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay. So I started paying attention and I was like, this is a lot. This isn't like a joke like here and there.
Not here and there, yeah.
So I was like, Okay, I think this needs to be talked about. Yeah. So I made a meeting with her, just her and I. Was like, hey, like I just want to like chat and like check up on you and see like how you're doing. Mm-hmm. And she came to the office, and the office is always empty. It's always just me. And we sat, and I was just like, hey, I just want to say, like, I noticed that you were saying a lot of comments. How are you doing?
Yeah, like, you good?
And she was just kind of like, oh, like, I don't know. And I was like, have you talked to your parents? And she's like, I don't want to tell my parents. And I was like, oh.
There is something.
There's something there. And she said, if I tell my parents, they just blame themselves. And now it was like, ooh,
now
okay.
It's evident.
So.
Tough.
First of all, that now creates a trusting relationship between her and I, because now she has somebody that's reaching out and checking up on her instead of her reaching out.
Huge.
And that is respecting her boundaries of not telling her parents.
Right.
There's policies with not telling parents. Yes. There's sometimes you have to tell them, sometimes you don't have to.
Yeah, I can imagine similar
so there
to
is
summer
that.
Camp and outdoor center. Yeah.
She was at a level where it was like okay, like she's not a danger to herself or other people.
Right.
So it was okay.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was like calling different centers for her, trying to find a connection with like a therapist.
Yeah.
And then she said, but I don't want my parents to know. So I was like, tell them you're with me. Tell them you're at the office with me. And I was like, I'll lie for you. I don't care. Yeah. This is for the betterment of your mental health. So in the long run, she was talking with somebody at the school, met a doctor.
Nice.
Was talking to the doctor about starting medication, which is something I told her. I was like, you can talk to your doctor. They won't tell your parents. Your parents don't need to know that you're going to see them. Yeah. You can do a phone interview so you don't have to worry about like going in person. Right. And
that's awesome.
Even after leaving that job, she was still texting me and kind of like saying like, oh, like I got into college now, and she was doing better. And it was like, because you just took 2 seconds to just care about a student, and now they just went from like self-deprecating to like now they're doing good and they're being taken care of.
Amazing,
and now her parents know. Yeah. Now she's comfortable talking to her parents about it.
Perfect, yeah.
And they've had a lot more conversations about it. But at the time, it was this scared 15-year-old that was going through something and had no one to talk to. And that was another one who was like, you know, the thing with the D&D was like a fun one, and that was like the other side of like, this is the serious side. This is like the other side of the impact. Yeah. So then you see like as a youth worker, what you can do for students depending on what they need. That's cool. And some students will come and they're thriving, they're doing great, they want leadership roles, and you just go, okay, here's more tasks, here's more tasks.
Guide them in the right direction.
Just keep guiding them. There was one student, she always did 110%. Every time. So, summer party. Yeah. We're going to do a sleepover. All the boys in one room, all the girls in one room.
Of course.
And I said, like, hey, Ashley, you can do, I can say her name, you can do, like, breakfast. And she was like, okay. And, you know, I'm expecting her to bring, like, you know, like, when you go camping, you do, like, the little cereal boxes.
Yeah, some small thing.
I'm expecting her that. No. She packed individual little fruit parfaits with, biodegradable spoon.
Oh, wow.
And brought them in a cooler.
Wow.
And, like, had one ready for each person, because some people were, like, dairy-free. And she had it all ready. And I was just like...
Ashley.
Who are you? Yeah, every time. I would ask her to do anything, she always did 110%.
Amazing.
Now,
that's so cool.
Her mom is extremely supportive, so you also see that. If the parents are really behind their kid, the kid is going to thrive so much.
Oh, yeah.
So Ashley had a really, really, really wonderful mom who just fully put her energy into everything that she did with her kids. And her sister was Daphne, who's my intern. So that was really fun. And Daphne was very much the same. Yeah. They just, like, had really good role models growing up. And then you have parents that are not really involved in their kids' lives, and you see, like, they need a lot more, like, motivation, a lot more push. They're not very organized. They're more, like, last minute and everything. It's very different. So that was another thing. When you work with students, you can really tell, like, if the parents are, like, really involved or not. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting distinction. Cool.
You can really see it. Some people thrive, like, no matter what. But parents, you know, like the parents that help you with like your science project, and they come to like all your hockey games. Yeah. It's a big difference.
Big difference, eh? Big difference. Wow. I'd imagine it would be like a bit of a difference, but to think that it's going to be that big of a difference is, wow, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's always good to show like the people behind an organization.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like a big thing, is because
huge.
Sometimes, you know, like, let's say like you call like a doctor's office and you're getting put on hold and you're getting transferred and it's very long. You want to be able to just talk to somebody.
I'll give you an example too of what you're to help make your point and emphasize it a bit. Doing the redefining success. And now I had met you a few times and talked with you, so I knew I'd met Camilla and stuff, so I trusted it. But showing, like kind of showing or talking to a couple friends of mine or people I know who also participated and who also applied and stuff like that, there was a bit of like, it sounds really great, but I don't know. And I'm like, it'll be fine.
Yes,
It'll
because
be fine.
we're still...
Yeah. But here's my thing, right?
Yes.
So as soon as we did the video call, or like I was out west and like, you know, you did the 2 video calls with the one group and second set of video calls with the other group. Yeah. That's where I remember getting off the phone and talking, or getting off the call, talking to a friend of mine about the video call, and him being like, dude, this is great. Yeah, Raphy seems like she's on the up and up. Yeah. This is perfect. Yeah. All right, I'm excited to do this. I'm like, it's because you now
it's
like,
you know the people.
It's not just emails or applications.
Which is so long.
Haven't met anybody yet, so it's tough to, like you said, trust or meet the people behind it. And then to your point, as soon as you meet the person behind the organization, you're like, oh,
they're human. They're human. It's that authenticity.
It's a thing. 100%. It's
that
the authenticity.
It's a huge, huge thing.
Made a big difference.
I can post a million different things on our stories and get no reactions. Yeah. And the moment one of our staff members talks about something personal, we'll get so much.
Boom.
So like Camilla, so maybe a year ago, she posted a picture and her gas tank was like empty and the light was on. And she posts like, do you guys think I'll make it to Chemi?
Amazing.
And people loved it. They were like, oh my gosh, like my light's on right now. Like that's so funny. And it's like, you'd think like she's the boss, just showing like the light on is like, is it a bad image?
Like, what
no, people loved it.
Yeah, people
loved it.
It's so crazy. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a random video idea where I was like, I want to know, I'm going to film how long it takes me as soon as my gas light goes on. It's a YouTube short that I have out. It did pretty well. A couple thousand views, and I was like, this is awesome. Yeah, so it wasn't bad. And I was like, oh, I'll put it out and see how long can I go with the gas light on before I have to fill up again, before I like die out. Yeah. And I did it, and I just like record. I was like, okay, so I'm in, it's 2013, whatever, at X point 3 liters per 100 kilometers mileage. I went about 53 kilometers. And if you're going to do this, do what I do. And if you want to see for yourself, make sure to have a jerry can full of gas in the back of your vehicle.
Plan ahead.
Yeah.
Plan ahead, please.
I did that. Like, I luckily had the jerry can in the back. But yeah, so to your point, meeting the people and the authenticity is
It changes a lot. And it helps, especially when you're working with youth, because it shows that, like, you're a person, you're authentic. You're not doing things for show. No. You're not doing things because it, like, makes you look good.
Right, there's no second.
You're a person, right? And then it helps them trust you more. Like what you were saying about your buddy. Yeah. How, like, once he had the meeting, he was like, oh.
He's like, this is awesome. Can't wait to do. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, and I may have made it out to sound worse, like there was no trust, but it was like, oh, I'm curious to see how this goes. I'm curious. And
because
then
they don't
immediately
know us.
It was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm all for it. Raphy sounds sick. Like, she seems awesome. I was like, amazing. This is what I'm saying. Perfect.
Because when you meet somebody for the first time and you're like, hey, can you come to a conference with me and go speak at, like, Science North? You're like, who is this?
Yeah.
What is happening? And then you sit down and you have a meeting with them. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they answer all your questions right out the gate. They tell you how it is. They kind of say your expectations.
Sketch.
Yeah, they're like, we're all doing this for networking. We're all doing this for this. Like, we all would like this, and let's all just use each other to get there. It's like, all right, works for me.
Sounds good.
Works for you, works for me. Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
We all cross our T's, dot our I's, and we're all on the same page. It's really nice.
And that's something that helps a lot when it's kind of like a weird thing that, like, graphic design helps because... when you get hired as an artist, you want to be protected. You want to know what's going on. If you have a bad feeling, you're immediately like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, you're closed off pretty quick.
You're closed off. There's a big thing, like, if you're working for somebody and they don't let you put the work that you did for them in your portfolio, that's a really big red flag.
Yeah.
Because you're like...
You mentioned that, too, in that video call. Yeah, that would bug me.
It's really weird. So it's kind of like if you did an interview with, like, Vivian Lapointe, and then she was like, you can't post this. And you're like, what? Why?
She's the Liberal MP, isn't she?
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes it's like, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't
so
make sense.
when they asked me that, like, can I share it? I was like, I'll send you like everything. I'll send you all the pictures and videos. Like, who cares? We are only gonna hit so many people as Future North.
Yeah.
If you tap into other networks, that's when you find more people. Like, you
100%.
and Michael brought so many people to your presentation.
Yeah,
like,
and there were people who couldn't come as well. They're like, that message us out, be like, yo, cool, no, wish we could come, but they worked and stuff. So it was like, yeah, and that was the whole, we were just really excited to bring people. That's a great example. We were like really excited. We had people come. There were people who couldn't make it. That there were probably like 15 people that couldn't make it.
Oh my gosh!
And we had a bunch of we had a bunch of people ready like come to it, and there was a bunch of friends like both sides that were able to come, and then Matt coming was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because he like pulled out of a presentation in North Bay to do to show up and stuff. Yeah. But it was like he had to go there, and it was weird communications. He was like, dude, I want to go. And so, making certain things line up was really cool.
Yeah. You have to use each other. It's all about like that teamwork.
And Mikey and I were very, very like grateful that you guys were like, I don't know if they like strategically did it or if they were like, we'll put you two together. Because like we've been friends for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And like I've had him on the show like twice. He's lived in this garage for like 6 months or 6 weeks. Sorry, 6 weeks.
6 months.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't do it for 6 months. It'd get too cold eventually. But yeah, so I was like, man. So it ended up working. Kicked off the momentum. We were all we were really fired up.
Yeah. So what we did, we were very strategic about it.
Yeah.
So basically, we got everybody's biographies.
Sick.
And then Camilla and I, we had like a board, and we wrote down schools, public spaces, like large spaces and small spaces.
Nice.
And then based on their biography, we were like, this person would fit really well in this space.
Yeah.
This person would fit really well in this space. So we're having Caitlin Catilla at Science North.
Yes.
Caitlin Catilla has done many presentations.
Mm-hmm.
Her speaking in front of a crowd will be no problem. So it's like, you are a good fit for this.
Yeah, perfect.
Yours and Michael's stories were very focused on like the teen, kind of like young adults. We're like, that's really good for like high school level.
Yeah. Like
that's what we want. And then other people, we have one that's on Saturday, and it's 2 women that had very similar experiences.
Yes.
Like trauma and abuse in their childhood. So like, let's put them together in a cafe because it'll feel more intimate.
Yeah.
It'll be smaller. It'll be more like a little
less
group.
intimidating.
Less intimidating than to like share your whole story with like let's say like 50 people. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So we kind of did it strategically, and then it was all about pairing up people.
Smart, yeah.
So we had 2 keynote speakers that are both older and part of the queer community. I was like, let's put them together.
Amazing, yeah.
We did that online panel with Michael, and it was all people that were living or had lived with disabilities.
Yes.
So it's like a little bit of like a theme going on.
Yeah.
Like just a little bit. It's like
Cool.
We're not going to just talk about
I'm so happy we're talking about this. 'Cause I'm so curious.
Yes. So that was really part of the process. And then after that, it was getting everybody's availability.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Because then
one.
you're like, a lot of people were really good that they were like, as long as you give me enough notice, I'll make it work.
Yeah, I feel I fit that as well. Yeah.
The only one that was tough is that like if we go to high school, a lot of people like can't take time off during the day to just like leave work and do a presentation. Yeah. Those ones were a little bit more tricky, so we were only going to give those to people that said that they could.
Right.
Because we're like, we don't want to put this on anybody. We had some opportunities that didn't fall through, unfortunately. Yeah. We really wanted to go to Manitoulin, and we were going to put it out to the keynote speakers, like, if you can come to Manitoulin, let us know. We will pick you up. We will drive all together.
Amazing.
You don't have to worry about travel, nothing.
Sweet.
But that person has to take, like, a day off work.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a 2-hour drive. You do a presentation. We were hoping to do kind of like 2, like one in Manitoulin, one in Espanola, to kind of like make it more worth the while.
Of course.
And then drive back. You're missing a day's work. Yeah. Not everybody's willing to do that.
Tough to do, yeah.
So that was one that we wanted to do that didn't end up working. So hopefully next time. And then, we had some keynotes that were like, actually, I'm swamped. I can't do this. And we're like, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's no problem.
Yeah.
And then some people joined, let's say, like a little bit last minute, but it was like, because we started with so much time in advance.
Brilliant, yeah.
It was so much better.
Very smart.
So people had a lot more time. I was a lot less stressed because I had time to like manage everything. And there was at a point where it was like every contract is signed, every photo shoot is done. Yeah. I have everybody's picture. Everybody's been translated. Amazing. All their information has been translated.
English, French.
I have their availabilities.
Yeah.
They all know what event they're going to. It's done. Everything's wrapped up. Now it's just actually doing it.
Yeah, execution.
then you can, that's a whole other step.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun to put together. It's a pilot project.
Yes.
So what we're going to do after this week, this is the last week, is do a big review.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do kind of like different ways of like people that participated and then keynotes. And then I always like to do staff. Because you might have had a great time, but maybe Camilla feels completely burnt out.
Oh,
So it's good
I get
to
it.
have
Yeah.
staff as well, because it could have been a nightmare for the staff. You don't know.
You're right. Yeah.
Or it could have been a blast, and then participants really did not like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to do that, and then it'll be like, again, open to negative comments. It's a pilot project. We're not going to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
We're going
Pretty
to
close.
have to make
Like, it's
adjustments.
pretty-
We're going to have to make adjustments, and then I always like to do a report.
Yeah.
People like to know how many people showed up to their events. Sponsors like to know how many people came, things like that.
Sweet.
And then you put in like, this is what we want to change if we were ever
Yeah.
to do this again. And then you would have like a list. Keep this,
Yeah.
change this. That's what we would do.
That's cool.
That's like,
Yeah.
in my mind, that's the proper way to do project management. You have to have that review,
Yeah. Huge.
because you could mess up. You could not do well, and
Yeah.
then you're just frustrated. And you could do really well and then find out that, like, oh, there was something going on in the background that you had no idea about.
So, Raphy, to kind of wrap it up and conclude, do you have any like kind of final lesson or final story or piece of advice you'd like to share? Could be one of those three if you like. Before we end.
Two things I always say is, one, when you're planning your future and you have no idea what to do, right? You're in
amazing.
high school, you're in 12th grade, and they're telling you to apply for college. Do something that would make you happy every day. Start with that.
Yeah.
If you are happy doing math every day, like my brother-in-law who's crazy, do math. Do math. His entire like university life was like, what are you gonna do next? He's like, I don't know, math.
Amazing.
He just wanted to do math.
What's he do now?
Math.
Obviously.
He's like a
That's
whole
funny.
story on its own, but he works for like a lab now, and he's a mathematician.
Oh,
That's
okay,
his
sick.
job.
Yeah.
And he loves it. He like makes algorithms.
Perfect.
Stuff. Sure.
Amazing.
My thing was I just wanted to do art.
Yeah.
As long as I was doing art, I knew I was going to be happy.
Nice.
Nothing specific. I have tried like many different types. So that's why I went into graphic design. Because graphic design was like a door that opens up to all of these different forms, all of these different projects that you can be on, and all these different mediums.
Amazing, yeah.
So I was like, that's what I want to do. For some people, it's helping people. It can you can start really simple with just like, I want to change the world. Or you can go like, I want to be in a surgical room. And you can start with there.
Yeah.
That's always the first thing, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up somewhere that you don't like.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people change programs or drop out. They go, everybody told me to do science, so I did science, and turns out I hate it. And it's like, yeah, because you didn't do what you wanted to do.
Right.
It's challenging.
You did what other people told you were. Yeah.
The other
Interesting.
thing, which we haven't touched on, is take your mental health seriously. Do not do what I did, where I kept saying, it's not that bad. I'm fine. It's
Yeah.
just like once in a while.
Yeah.
And then realize.
What would you recommend
Oh,
to like people in that space or younger you with that? What would you do differently? And then we can come back.
younger. What would I have done to younger me?
Yeah. Add this piece of advice in.
Ooh.
I know I'm coming at you quick with it, but
like, I take it seriously and talk to somebody. Like,
Okay.
talk to like a doctor.
Nice.
You don't need your parents to make an appointment. You can do phone interview, like I said, if you're like really nervous and like you can't take the bus and you can't drive.
Yeah.
Do a phone call, and they'll basically go through like a quiz with you, and then you'll move forward. And then they'll give you like different apps that you can try. They might start you on medication. That's a possibility. They might recommend you to a therapist. A lot of people that have full-time jobs have benefits,
Yes.
and they can cover like 5 sessions of therapy.
oh, that's cool.
So if your parents have that, you can go under them because you're under their insurance.
Nice. Yeah.
Take it seriously, because it's very easy to say, oh, it's not that bad. But like, my friend has
Yeah.
depression, and I'm not like her. Mental health comes up differently in everybody.
Everybody.
My mom and I, we both have anxiety.
Yeah.
That does not mean that we live it the same way.
Of course not.
We have different things that bother us.
Yeah. Different triggers.
Different triggers and everything. And then once you do start taking care of it, you're going to go, why didn't I do this sooner?
Of course. Yeah.
This would have changed my life. This would have changed everything.
Yeah.
And then you like kind of feel stupid. And then now that I went through that, every time I have a friend that's like kind of showing signs, I'm like forcing them to talk to somebody because I'm like, no, go talk to somebody, do it. And then they're like, yeah, but like I just have like a panic attack like once a month, and I'm like, that's not normal. That's not normal. They're like, yeah, but like my friends have them. Like that's not normal.
Both of you have this issue.
Both of you have this issue. That's not normal.
Yeah.
And then like when I started taking medication and it like kicked in, I was like, this is how normal people feel? Because to me, it was, I always say it's like someone like turned down the volume in my head.
Interesting.
It was like as if like,
well said, yeah.
all the time it was like 100 different doubts, 100 different worries all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And then somebody just like cranked it down to like 3 and it was like, I can process 3.
Yeah.
3 is fine. And then you go, this one thing is trying to make me feel a certain way. And then you notice it before you get into your emotions, and then you can deal with it before it gets bad. And then it's like, oh, this is fine now.
I think that's one of the best ways I've heard on how to describe like the sounds going on and the anxiety.
Yeah. It's the volume.
Yeah, and it's then getting it before the emotions, like you said.
And a lot of times with depression, it's the opposite. It's you have to crank it up because it's your head going, this isn't worth doing.
Right.
Who cares if I do the dishes? Yes. I'm just going to stay in bed. It's just easier. So you need that boost. That's like a big part of it. So, I'm very blunt about mental health now because I'm like, don't.
No, it's perfect.
I see it so often where people are like making self-deprecating jokes, or they'll like see like, a TikTok, it's like a car crash and they're like, oh, that's gonna be me one day. I'm like, no.
What?
That's not normal. You should not be thinking that way.
Get near that. What's going on here?
And then once you fix it, then you realize, you're like, oh wait, you're right.
That
wasn't normal. That was not healthy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
amazing.
A big thing.
Yeah.
Having a good support system is of course great. My mom now like is like, how are you doing with your medication? I'm like, thanks mom. Like, I really appreciate that.
That's big, yeah. It's huge.
That's really big. And sometimes getting that diagnosis, it just answers all your questions. Because then you go, that's why I did that as a child. That's why being in a crowd in the mall during Christmas makes me feel like I'm going crazy. It's because of this.
Yeah.
That makes sense now.
You get a bit more clarity on what issues.
Clarity.
Yeah.
And then like since I got diagnosed at 24.
Yeah.
And then since then it was like I understand myself so much better and I can explain it to other people.
Yeah.
So like my dad, who luckily has like no mental health issues whatsoever, not to say that man doesn't have trauma with family and stuff, but like he is just extroverted, born leader, successful, northern man, and he is like, I don't get it. And then you kind of explain it to him and it's like this, and he's like, I still don't get it, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And then that definitely helps.
That clears up some of the blurred
lines.
Yes,
exactly.
That's helpful though.
Exactly. Because like my sister too, my sister's fine.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. But now she has 2 kids, and she was like, what happens if like my kid has it? And I'm like, take it seriously, deal with it, because you'd rather deal with it while they're young than when it's like too late.
Yeah, you can set up the building blocks to.
And if you think something's going on, like just talk to somebody.
Amazing.
Like it's like when you get like a weird mole and you're like, I should see a doctor about this. Do that with your mental health.
Yeah.
Do that with your mental health. Yeah.
It's like when a check engine light comes on for
your
body.
It's like,
or your brain.
Go get it checked out. Don't wait until your car gets totaled on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait, because by then it's like you're gonna do so much more damage to yourself and to like the people around you, because you impact the people around you. It impacts your relationships. I have a buddy. I forced him to talk to a doctor and a therapist, and every time he would meet somebody, like potential romantic partner, his anxiety will basically self-sabotage. Because he would get anxious so much over like a text.
Yeah.
And then he's overthinking it, and he's freaking out, and then that person's like, it was just a text. Like, yeah. And then now he's going to therapy and figuring it out, and it's going a lot better.
That's good.
But yeah. It was like, this is definitely impacting you in ways that you're not realizing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Important.
So yeah, do things, study, and do a job that you think you'd enjoy every day, start with that. It's such a good way to start like figuring out your future, and like that might change down the road.
Sure, yeah.
Like me with making art, I'm still happy just making art. The days that I get to just do marketing are my favorite days.
Let's go, yeah.
Let's go. Exactly. For some people, it's like, I have a buddy, he's like, I just want to be outside. I don't care what I do. A job's
Perfect.
a job.
Yeah.
I just want to be outside.
Amazing.
So he works at like national parks during the summer.
Perfect.
That's just what he wants.
Amazing.
He doesn't care about the rest. And then, yeah, take your mental health seriously.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Raphy, where can people find you? Where can people find Future North?
Okay.
Like, yeah, I'm rolling out the red carpet for you here.
Okay. Future North, we're on Instagram. I post a lot on like stories, like different opportunities. Check that out. We also do a lot of giveaways.
Nice.
I'm just saying, we're almost at 1,000 and we're doing a giveaway for the 1,000th follower. So whoever you're the 1,000th follower, you're getting AirPods.
Nice.
Just saying. So follow us there. It's futurenorth.futuresnord. You put Future North, it's going to come up.
Yeah.
We have a separate account for redefining success.
Yep.
We're doing door prizes and everything. If you want to check that out, the series is done at the end of this week,
Yep.
but we're going to do a second phase definitely in February.
Sweet. Good.
With Collège Boréal.
Sweet.
That one, the name's a bit weird because redefining success and then in French is too long. So it's Redef Success. Like
Amazing,
REDEF. And my
Success,
Instagram is easy. It's Raphy is away.
Easy.
Find pictures of my cats.
Awesome. Right on. I really, I've enjoyed meeting you, connecting with you, working with you, and I'm very excited to see how your show comes to fruition and working with you on events in the
you
future
can
and
bet you'll
stuff
be
like
one
that.
of the first guests.
I'm very
You can
excited.
bet.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's and we can talk more about that after, but yeah, I'm excited to just continue seeing the success and how Future North grows, and I'm very excited to have
so
met you, and I
much.
appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Right on.
First
Thank
podcast.
you. Let's go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.